Girl Who Waited, Chapter 18. The Unspoken Comfort. After that day, Vansh met her father. Something subtle began to shift in Niyati's life. She didn't know about their private conversation, yet quietly, little things started changing. Little things that all seemed to trace back to Vansh. It wasn't a dramatic change, nor the kind that movies talk about, or another exaggeration. There were no grand declaration of love, no roses on her desk every morning, and no loud promises whispered in the wind. Instead, it was the small, subtle, almost invisible gestures, so small that other people would have missed them, but for Niyati they became moments that she could not overlook. When she arrived at the office each morning, the familiar aroma of coffee greeted her before anything else. Her favorite cup, not too hot, not too cold, sat waiting for her, preferably made exactly the way she liked it. Never asked who had placed it here, but deep down her heart already knew. There was something in the quiet precision of that act that carried one's touch, thoughtful, silent, and consistent. On the days when she forgot her lunch, it was never really a problem. Vansh would appear beside her, holding an extra tiffin, pretending as if it was a coincidence. It's too much for me, he would say, casually opening it as if he truly needed help in finishing it. But both of them knew the truth. He noticed her little forgetfulness before she even realized it, and somehow always found a way to be there with her without making her feel dependent. Then came the monsoon days, the season that painted the city in shades of grey and silver. One morning, when Niyati rushed out of her home without an umbrella, that she would simply face the rain, but as she reached the office gate, she saw him standing there, holding on for her, impatiently, drenched just enough to show that he had been here for a while. When she looked up at him, he smiled with a calm, unhurted smile that carried warmth even in the cold rain. He didn't make things difficult. He didn't make it seem like a favor. It felt natural, as if he was meant to be there. And whenever she worked late, which had become quite often, Vansh would always find a way to drop her home. Anyway, it's on my way, he would say, his tone light, almost teasing, but she knew it was not there. His home was in the opposite direction. Still, he never complained, never made it a big deal. It was just something he did, as if ensuring her safety was as natural as breathing. At first, Niyati told herself that it is just a friendship, a kind, dependable friendship. But friendship didn't explain why her heart suddenly felt lighter whenever he entered the room, or why her eyes autonomously searched for him in a crowd. Friendship didn't explain why. Made her forget the worries or her tension, or why even the silence was controlling. Then was then was something more, something deeper, something unspoken. One evening, as the sky darkened for too early, a heavy storm rolled in. Thick clouds poured endless rain over the city, flooding streets and slowing everything down. Niyati gripped the steering wheel tightly, her knuckles white as she was trying to navigate through the chaos. Viper worked tirelessly, but visibility was poor. For a moment, fear crept in, the kind that quietly builds when you feel alone in a storm. Just as she reached for her phone to call her father, it rang. She didn't even need to check who it was. Somehow she knew. Stop wherever you are, I'll come. One's voice came through, calm, steady, and firm. There were no hesitation, no question, just quiet authority and care that left no room for argument. Within 15 minutes, his car pulled up beside hers. She saw him step out, walking straight into the pouring rain, an umbrella in one hand. He didn't even care that his shirt was getting drenched or that his shoes were soaked through. He simply opened the door and guided her towards his car, shielding her from the rain as best as he could. Inside the car, the world outside was nothing but blurred water was flashing headlights. For a moment, she just looked at him, at his wet hair shaking to his forehead, the drops coming down his cheek, and the way his hands gripped the steering wheel, way calm and sure. Why do you care so much, Vansh? She asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Instead, he didn't look at her. He kept his eyes on the road and smiled faintly. Because someone has to be, he said simply. These four words, because someone has to, stayed with her long after she reached her home last night. Lying in bed, the rain still whispering against her window, Niyati's mind replayed the past few months like a slow moving film. The temple night, the quiet coffee mornings, the way he listened without interrupting, and the way he wanted to know when she needed even before she spoke. Years she had built walls around her heart, tall and strong, convincing herself that needing someone only led to pain. But Vansh wasn't breaking those walls with grand efforts. He was simply willing to wait for her. He was simply waiting, showing up, caring in silence, and with every single moment, every small act of kindness, those walls began to crumble, not with force but with patience and warmth. His father softened. Her father noticed it too. One evening when Vansh dropped her home and waved goodbye, her father stood by her at the door, watching with a knowing smile. Near, Niyati, he said, his tone teasing yet gentle. I think this boy cares more for you than you care for yourself. She laughed, trying to brush it off. Papa, please. But her cheeks flushed with a color that she could not hide, and her heart, that guarded, careful heart, skipped a beat. Still, she was not ready to admit anything, not even to herself. Love was a dangerous risk. She had lost too much in the past, and opening her heart felt like walking into the fire. But somewhere deep inside, a great voice whispered that this time things might be different. Because Vansh was not a storm that swept her away. He was the calm after it, steady, patient, unspoken comfort. And though she didn't know it, yet life had already written the next chapter. One where an unexpected moment would soon arrive, a moment that would make her realize that Vansh is not just a friend, but as the man she could no longer imagine losing. If you like this story, please do like, share, and subscribe my channel. If you want your story to be heard in our voice, please do share your story in the comment box. Thank you.